Welcome to our deep dive into spiritual freedom.
Okay.
You sent over this really interesting piece of Hindi text, an excerpt from OSHSMD 03 Shunya Samadhi 03.amr.
Okay.
And it's full of philosophical ideas.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a parable
Yeah.
with a speaker addressing an audience about how to, break free from limitations.
Okay.
Ever feel like you're stuck in a rut?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
This text uses all these metaphors and stories
Right.
to explore the concept of ego as like a peg
Interesting.
that's holding us back from true spiritual growth and connection to something bigger.
Yeah, it's fascinating how this ancient text uses such relatable imagery to get these, complex points across.
Oh, totally. One that really stood out to me is the boat analogy.
Oh, yeah.
It's about these young guys who go out rowing all night.
Okay.
They're feeling like they're making progress, but come morning, they realize they haven't moved an inch
Wow.
because they forgot to untie the boat.
Oh, no.
It's brilliant.
It is.
It's a brilliant way to show how we can expend so much effort in life without actually moving forward.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah,
Have you ever felt like you were putting in the work, but not getting anywhere?
absolutely.
Maybe stuck in a job you hate,
Oh, yeah.
a relationship that's going nowhere, or even just a negative thought pattern?
Yeah.
This story suggests that we might be tied to something,
Okay.
a limiting belief,
Right.
a fear, or maybe even our own ego that's preventing us from truly moving forward.
That's such a powerful way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's like we're so busy rowing
Right?
that we don't even realize we're still tethered to the shore.
Exactly.
And the text goes on to outline these three major pegs
Okay.
that hold the soul back from its full potential.
That's interesting.
Okay, so let's unpack these pegs.
Okay.
The first one is knowledge without wonder.
Right.
Right.
Yes, and it's a bit counterintuitive.
I know, right?
You might think that more knowledge equals more freedom. Yeah.
But the speaker is saying that simply accumulating information without cultivating a sense of awe and curiosity
Okay.
can actually limit us. It's like having all the ingredients for a delicious meal, but never actually cooking it.
Oh, interesting.
You have the potential,
Right.
but you're not experiencing the full richness of what's possible.
So it's not about rejecting knowledge,
Right.
but about approaching it with a sense of wonder
Yes.
and openness to new perspectives.
Precisely.
I like that.
The speaker's urging us to be lifelong learners who are always seeking,
Okay.
questioning,
Yeah.
and marveling at the world around us.
That's a good point.
Imagine someone who knows every fact
Yeah.
about a particular species of bird,
Okay.
but has never actually taken the time to observe it in nature,
Right.
to appreciate its beauty and complexity.
Yeah.
They might have knowledge,
Yeah,
but they're missing the wonder that brings that knowledge to life.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how these pegs
Aren't about being bad or wrong,
Right.
but about recognizing the subtle ways we might be limiting ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, the second peg the text highlights
Okay.
is a vision of life dominated by suffering and negativity.
Oh, this one hits close to home.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in what's wrong with the world,
It is.
to focus on the negative. And I can see how that can make you feel stuck and powerless.
It's like wearing a pair of glasses that only show you the darkness.
Well,
You might miss the beauty and joy that are also present even amidst the challenges.
so to break free from this peg,
Yeah,
we need to cultivate a more balanced perspective,
I think so.
acknowledging the negative without letting it define our reality, which brings us to the third
Yes.
and perhaps most significant peg,
Okay.
ego.
Yes, the text really emphasizes
Yeah.
how ego can be the ultimate restraint,
Okay.
keeping us trapped in a cycle of striving and dissatisfaction.
Right.
It's described as this constant hunger.
For validation, recognition,
Right.
and a sense of separateness from everything around us.
I see.
To
Yeah.
illustrate this,
Yeah.
the speaker uses a fascinating story
Okay.
about an old man who sells 2 eggs for 100 to a king.
Right. And the old man wasn't just lucky.
No,
He understood how to play on the king's ego.
exactly.
He knew the king would be more concerned with appearing wealthy and powerful
Yeah.
than with the actual value of the eggs.
Right.
The inflated price wasn't about the eggs themselves. It was about feeding the king's ego.
Exactly.
Okay, so how does this relate to us?
Well,
Are we all walking around overpaying for eggs just to inflate our egos?
maybe not literally,
Okay.
but think about it.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt pressured to buy something you didn't really need
Oh, yeah.
just to impress someone?
Oh, yes.
Or maybe you've spent hours crafting the perfect social media post, hoping for likes and comments.
I've been there.
These are subtle ways our ego drives our desires.
For possessions,
Right.
status, and external validation.
This is making me think about how much of my life is driven by this need to feed the ego.
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah, it is.
And the text doesn't stop there.
Oh, no?
It goes on to explore how this ego-driven desire creates a powerful illusion of separateness, keeping us from experiencing true connection.
That makes sense. It's like the ego builds walls between us and others,
Yes.
preventing us from truly seeing and understanding each other.
And to illustrate this point,
Okay.
the speaker uses the story of Diogenes,
Oh, wow.
the Greek philosopher, who wandered around with a lantern in broad daylight,
Interesting.
searching for an honest man.
I see.
This story highlights how rare it is
Okay.
to find someone who is truly self-aware
Right.
and free from the ego's influence.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It's like we're all stumbling around in the dark, blinded by our own egos.
Right.
But if self-awareness is so rare, how do we even begin to break free?
Well, the text suggests
Okay.
that the first step is simply becoming aware
Uh-huh.
of the ego's presence in our daily lives.
Okay.
It's about noticing those moments
Yeah.
when our thoughts and actions are driven by that need for validation,
Right.
recognition, or control.
Right.
And this is where practices like introspection and meditation can be incredibly valuable.
So it's about developing that inner observer,
Yes.
that part of ourselves
Exactly.
that can step back and witness our thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them.
Exactly. And that awareness is presented as the key
Okay.
to transcending the ego's grip.
I see.
The speaker uses the analogy of a child trying to grab its shadow
Okay.
to emphasize that directly confronting
Right.
or trying to eliminate the ego is futile.
So it's not about fighting the ego,
Right.
but about shifting our focus.
Precisely. The speaker seems to be urging us to turn towards something more substantial, something that lies beyond the ego's grasp.
This reminds me of the story of Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah.
Endlessly chasing after that elusive queen, never actually reaching her.
That's a great connection.
It highlights how chasing after ego-driven desires
Yes.
often leads to a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction. The speaker seems to be saying, stop chasing the shadow and turn towards the light.
Right.
But how do we actually do that?
Well,
How do we cultivate that awareness and shift our focus away from the ego?
Yeah.
The text offers a few clues,
Okay.
starting with the story of the king who undergoes rigorous training with his guru.
Right.
Oh, yes. The one where he starts by training with a wooden sword.
Yes. He's constantly anticipating an attack. And that hypervigilance eventually weakens the ego's hold.
Exactly. It's a metaphor for the practice of mindfulness.
Right.
By paying constant attention to our thoughts and motivations, we start to see the ego for what it is.
Yeah.
Just a mental construct,
Exactly.
a collection of thoughts and beliefs that don't have to define us.
It's like we're training our minds to recognize those ego-driven impulses
Okay.
and choose a different path.
So it's not about denying our desires
Right.
or becoming some kind of emotionless robot.
No, it's about recognizing that we have a choice.
I see.
We can choose to align ourselves with something bigger
Okay.
than our individual egos to connect with our true selves,
Right.
the essence of who we are beyond those limitations.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle.
Okay.
The connection between transcending the ego
Uh-huh.
and experiencing the divine.
That's where things start to get really interesting.
I know, right?
But
But I think we've covered a lot of ground already.
yeah, we have.
So maybe we should,
Yeah, maybe take a break.
take a break and come back to that.
Sounds good. Yeah, we covered a lot.
Yeah, but it's so interesting how the speaker links ego dissolution
Yes.
to this heightened awareness and connection with something much larger than ourselves.
It's like the king's training in that story
Right.
eventually progresses to the point where he can sense his guru's thoughts
Oh, wow.
without any words being spoken.
That's right. He reaches this incredible level of awareness and connection.
Yeah.
But uh, for those of us who aren't training with a guru in a remote mountaintop temple.
Right. Uh-huh.
How do we even start to tap into that?
Well, I think a key takeaway
Yeah.
is that as we let go of that limited sense of self,
Okay.
that ego-driven perspective,
Mm-hmm.
we open ourselves up to a much wider reality.
Okay.
It's a sense of interconnectedness
Mm-hmm.
with everything around us. It's not about becoming emotionless
Right.
or passive.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
So it's less about striving for individual achievement
Yeah,
and more about recognizing our place in the grand scheme of things.
exactly. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing.
Okay.
It allows us to experience the world with a sense of wonder,
Mm.
compassion, and a deep understanding of our interconnectedness.
Okay, that makes sense. But it still feels kind of abstract.
Mhm.
How do we actually apply these teachings in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
You know, with work deadlines,
Yeah.
family drama, and
Yeah.
all the other messy realities of being human.
You bring up a great point.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost
Right.
in these grand philosophical concepts. But the real magic happens
Okay.
when we start to integrate them
Yeah.
into the fabric of our daily lives.
Yeah.
It's not about suddenly becoming enlightened beings.
Right.
It's about making small,
Okay.
conscious choices,
Mm-hmm.
moment by moment, that
Right.
gradually shift our entire way of being in the world.
So it's less about reaching some perfect end goal
Yeah.
and more about the journey itself.
Precisely. It's about embracing the process of growth
Okay.
and self-discovery.
Yeah.
Now, the text emphasizes awareness as that crucial first step. Okay. We need to become conscious of the ego's presence in our thoughts and actions.
Like that king training with a wooden sword always on high alert.
Exactly. We need to develop that same level of vigilance
Okay.
when it comes to our own egos.
Uh-huh.
We need to be on the lookout for those moments
Yeah.
when our thoughts and actions are
Okay.
driven by the need to be right,
Okay.
to win an argument,
Yeah.
or to prove ourselves to others.
I see.
Those are often telltale signs
Yeah.
that our ego is in the driver's seat.
So those moments when you feel that competitive edge
Mm-hmm.
or the need to defend yourself
Yeah.
are opportunities to pause
Right.
and notice the ego at play.
Precisely. Another big one is comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Think about those times when you get caught up comparing yourself to others,
Yeah.
feeling either superior or inferior.
Yeah.
Comparison is a classic ego trap.
Okay.
It feeds into that sense of separateness, that constant need
Mhm.
to measure ourselves against others.
Oh, I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah,
It's so easy to get sucked into the comparison game,
it is.
especially with social media.
Right.
But the text is saying true freedom comes from letting go of that need
Yes.
to compare and compete.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the inherent worth
Okay.
and value of every individual,
Right.
including ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
without needing to rank or compare.
Okay.
This is where mindfulness comes into play. It's
Yeah.
about cultivating
Mm-hmm.
a non-judgmental awareness of
Mhm.
our thoughts and feelings,
Right.
noticing those ego-driven impulses
Mm-hmm.
without getting swept away by them.
So we become observers of our own minds
Yes.
rather than being completely controlled by those thoughts and emotions.
Exactly. It's like creating some space
Okay.
between ourselves and the ego.
Uh-huh.
And the more we practice this,
Yeah.
the more we start to see the ego
Mm-hmm.
as this separate entity, this
Mhm.
mental construct
Okay.
that doesn't have to dictate our actions.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Good.
It's about awareness,
Yes.
mindfulness,
Uh-huh.
and recognizing that we have a choice
Right.
in how we respond to those ego-driven impulses.
You got it. It's about reclaiming our power
Okay.
and choosing to align ourselves with something bigger than our individual egos.
I like that. The text also talks about cultivating a sense of wonder and awe.
Yes.
That's right. It said that knowledge without wonder
Mhm.
is one of the pegs holding us back.
I think it's because wonder and awe have this incredible power
Okay.
to pull us out of that self-centered perspective
Uh-huh.
that the ego thrives on. It's like when you stand in awe
Yeah.
of a breathtaking natural wonder,
Mm-hmm.
your ego kind of fades into the background
Right.
as you become absorbed in something much larger than yourself.
You're right. You experience a sense of connection to something vast and mysterious.
Yeah,
But how do we cultivate that sense of wonder in everyday life?
that's a good question.
Not every day involves a visit to the Grand Canyon.
Of course, I think it's about shifting our perspective.
Okay.
It's about approaching even the mundane aspects of our lives with a sense of curiosity and appreciation.
Right.
Noticing the intricate patterns of a leaf,
Right.
the warmth of the sun on our skin, the kindness of a stranger, the sound of rain on the roof.
So it's about finding those little moments of magic in the everyday.
Exactly. And I think this ties into the speaker's message
Yes.
about letting go of a vision of life dominated by suffering.
Right.
When we're fixated on what's wrong with the world, it's easy to miss the beauty and goodness that are also present.
So it's about consciously choosing to focus on the positive, even amidst the challenges and difficulties.
You're right. It's not about denying the negative.
Okay.
It's about finding a balance, acknowledging the darkness without letting it consume us.
It's about choosing to see the world through a lens of possibility and hope.
I like that.
And this brings us back to that idea of connecting with the divine, which the text suggests is a natural outcome of transcending the ego.
Yes, this is where the speaker's message gets really profound.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that sense of interconnectedness, that feeling of belonging to something vast and mysterious.
Okay.
It's not necessarily tied to a specific religion or belief system.
So it's more about tapping into that universal energy that connects us all.
Exactly. Like in the story where the king, through his training, develops the ability to sense his guru's thoughts without any words spoken.
That's right. Yeah. He reaches this level of awareness that goes beyond the limitations of the ego.
It's a beautiful illustration of the transformative power of self-awareness. As we let go of our limited sense of self, we open ourselves to a deeper level of knowing and understanding.
Okay.
And that's something we can all access.
Yeah.
Regardless of our backgrounds or beliefs.
Right.
It's about tuning into that quiet voice within, that sense of knowing that transcends the chatter of the ego.
So we're talking about cultivating that inner stillness, that receptivity to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. It's a practice, an ongoing journey of peeling back the layers of the ego to reveal the true self that lies beneath.
This all sounds incredible.
It is.
But it also seems like a lifelong process. Like we're talking about rewiring our entire way of being in the world.
You're absolutely right. This is not a quick fix.
No.
It's a commitment to a path of self-discovery and growth.
Yeah. It's probably going to be messy.
Oh, yeah.
And challenging at times.
Absolutely. There will be moments when we fall back into old patterns, when the ego reasserts its grip. But the key is to keep practicing.
Okay.
Keep coming back to that awareness and keep choosing to align ourselves
with something bigger than our individual selves.
So it's about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remembering that there is no finish line. It's a continuous process of evolution and growth.
Yeah.
A lifelong exploration of what it truly means to be human.
That's beautifully put.
Thank you.
And I think it leads perfectly into the next part of our conversation.
Okay.
Now that we have a better understanding of these concepts, the question is, how do we actually live them out?
Right.
How do we translate this philosophical wisdom into concrete actions and choices in our everyday lives?
That's where the rubber meets the road.
I like that.
And I think it's a discussion well worth having.
Okay. So we've talked about the ego as this peg holding us back. And the importance of awareness and transcendence. But, it's one thing to grasp these concepts intellectually. And another to actually live them out.
So how do we translate this philosophical wisdom into real tangible actions in our daily lives?
That's the heart of it, isn't it? It's about bridging the gap between understanding and embodying these ideas. And I think the key is to remember that this isn't about some drastic overnight transformation or achieving some kind of perfect egoless state. It's about those small conscious choices we make each day, moment by moment, that gradually shift our way of being in the world.
So it's not about aiming for an unattainable ideal of perfection, but rather about focusing on the journey itself.
Exactly. Yeah. It's about recognizing that we are all works in progress and embracing the ongoing process of growth and self-discovery. Now, where do we begin to put these teachings into practice? Right. The text offers some valuable insights. Okay. One powerful practice it hints at is the cultivation of gratitude.
Gratitude. Yeah. It's amazing how such a simple practice can have such a profound impact on our outlook, isn't it?
It really is. You see, gratitude is a powerful antidote to the ego's tendency to focus on what's lacking. Yeah. What's wrong. Right. What we don't have. When we consciously choose to appreciate the good in our lives. Right. It shifts our attention away from those ego-driven desires. It helps us connect with a sense of abundance and contentment.
It's like that saying, what you focus on expands.
Yes.
If we're constantly dwelling on what's missing, we just feed the ego's sense of dissatisfaction. Right. But when we focus on what we're grateful for, it creates a positive feedback loop.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And gratitude doesn't have to be this grand, elaborate practice.
Yeah.
It can be as simple as taking a few moments each day to acknowledge the things we appreciate, big or small.
Like what?
The warmth of the sun on our skin, a delicious meal, the laughter of a loved one, even the simple act of breathing.
It's about finding those little pockets of joy in our day-to-day experiences and really savoring them.
Right. Exactly. And it can be incredibly grounding and humbling. Yeah. It helps us reconnect with what truly matters. Now, another powerful practice that aligns beautifully with the speaker's message is cultivating compassion.
Compassion.
Both for ourselves and for others.
It's such a powerful force.
It is.
And yet it often feels overlooked.
I'd agree.
In our fast-paced, individualistic culture.
You're so right. Compassion is essential.
Okay.
Because it helps us break down those walls of separateness that the ego constructs. Yeah. When we practice compassion, we begin to see ourselves in others and others in ourselves.
Okay.
We recognize our shared humanity, our common struggles, and our interconnectedness.
And that recognition is crucial.
It is.
For transcending that ego-driven sense of isolation and self-importance, isn't it?
Absolutely. But compassion also extends to ourselves. Right. Remember how the speaker talked about the futility of trying to eliminate or suppress the ego?
Yeah.
It's not about hating ourselves for having an ego.
Okay.
It's about approaching ourselves with understanding and kindness.
It's like recognizing that we are all imperfect beings.
Yes.
Doing the best we can with the tools we have.
You've got it. And when we practice self-compassion, we create a more supportive and nurturing inner environment.
Right.
It allows for genuine growth and transformation.
I see.
Now, the text also briefly touched on the idea of service.
Oh, yeah.
Of contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Yes. Contributing to something.
Right.
Beyond our own individual needs and desires.
Service is another powerful way to shift our focus away from the ego's self-centered concerns.
Right.
When we engage in acts of service, we connect with a sense of purpose that transcends our individual needs.
It's about recognizing that we're part of a larger web of interconnectedness.
Exactly.
And that our actions have ripple effects.
Precisely. And service doesn't have to be some grand, heroic gesture.
Right.
It can be as simple as lending a helping hand to a neighbor, volunteering in our community, or donating to a cause we believe in.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to make a positive impact on the world around us, no matter how small.
It's those everyday acts of kindness and generosity that can ripple outwards and create a more compassionate and interconnected world.
And what's interesting is that when we engage in acts of service, we often find that we receive more than we give.
That's true. I think it speaks to that interconnectedness we've been talking about.
It does.
Now, gratitude, compassion, and service are all wonderful starting points.
They are.
But it's also important to acknowledge that this journey of transcending the ego is going to look different for everyone, right?
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here. The speaker's message is a guide. An invitation to explore what resonates with us and to find our own unique path.
So it's about experimenting with different practices.
Yeah.
Paying attention to what feels authentic and meaningful.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and remembering that this is an ongoing process.
Right.
There will be setbacks. There will be moments of frustration, times when we fall back into old patterns.
Right.
But The key is to keep coming back to that intention.
Okay.
That desire to live a life guided by something deeper and more meaningful than the ego's limited perspective.
It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns.
Yeah.
And trusting that we have the capacity to grow, evolve, and connect with our true selves.
Beautifully said. It's about opening ourselves up to the possibility of experiencing the world in a whole new way.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
We've explored some profound concepts today.
We have.
And I hope you, our listener,
yes,
feel inspired to embark on this journey of self-discovery. To explore these practices, to uncover the freedom that lies beyond the ego's grip. And to discover the incredible power of connection and compassion.
It's a journey well worth taking.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But remember, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
Keep diving deep. Keep seeking.
Right.
And keep exploring. Until next time.
Bye.
Please like, share and subscribe.